Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Online Warriors podcast. I'm back. Whether you like it or not, I'm here to stay. Sorry if you weren't. I don't know. How did you guys enjoy last week without me? Techtic, Nerdbomber, talked Pokemon.
Yeah, we talked Pokemon.
It was a good episode for me to not be around for. I was traveling. I was fine. That's just I don't. People might wonder why I'm not around. I was abroad. I was traveling. I wasn't abroad like abroad, like it's what they used to call. They used to call ladies in like the old 20s gangster movies. I was away. I was traveling. I had a good time. Now I'm back, and we have saved daylight, guys. We did it. We all banded together and we saved it. So every year on the podcast, we have 2 episodes that the beginning content never changes. One is when daylight savings happens. The other one is when it unhappens. And I don't remember which is which. Did daylight savings just unhappen to us, or are we in daylight savings now?
We are officially saving.
Okay, so we're in it.
Yeah, we are in daylight savings. So like the good time is daylight savings time.
I have to admit, like I feel like most of the time we talk about this on the show, I kind of discount like I'm like, it's not that big of a deal. Driving home today and it still being light outside was kind of a huge deal for my mental health. So shout out to daylight.
So good.
It was. I will say though, like it's still cold. So like you see the sun when you're like walking out of work. If you're me, and you're like, oh sweet, it's gonna be beautiful out. It's gonna buoy my spirits. And then you walk outside and it's really cold. At least if you're where I'm from. So it's still cold, but the sun is out. And the daylight is daylighting more. It's dark when you wake up now, which, whatever. You're barely even awake anyways. It's fine. We're going to talk about the Xbox partner preview that we got last week today. That's going to be a big chunk of the episode. We also have a movie trailer and a show trailer on the back burner for when we get to those. It's a full episode. We can dive right into the Xbox partner preview. And these are always weird for me because I don't own an Xbox. Now, there are certain games that were discussed that naturally do apply to the PS5. I'm a PS5 boy. There are a number that do not. So we're going to get into that.
Just get your PC set up, and then you can play some.
I bought...
But I don't even think you'll need that. A lot of these are third-party partners, so I'm sure these are probably things that, obviously are going to go on Game Pass.
Yes.
But if you're on PlayStation or PC, I'm sure these will come to those consoles/systems.
Yeah, the Game Pass thing I don't think about as much, but there were a couple games that I saw trailers for, and I was like, it was bone chilling. I was like, if this doesn't come to PS5, it's going to be a real problem for me. But luckily, in most cases, it doesn't appear that was the case. We'll get into it, but this was about a half an hour long kind of deal where we got, I don't know, something like 20 trailers. Maybe a little less than that, 15 to 20, something like that. So I don't know how you guys want to do this. We can go through it in order one by one. We can go around the room and each pick something that we liked. It's really, it's our show. We can do what we want. That's the beauty of this. We don't have a boss. I mean, do we? If we do, I'm not aware of it.
Dibs, I'm the boss.
Well, if you're the boss, why don't you tell me what among these, just pick one for now. What really rustled your jimmies?
The one that I absolutely want to talk about, because other ones, I don't want to come off as, oh, he's going to talk about side scroller. No, because I've already talked about that side scroller. The one that I want to talk about is the altars. This game has a very unique concept. Basically, the concept is you're one guy kind of alone trying to survive, and you come across this material that allows you to make replicates or alternate versions of yourself from various timelines. And so in order to succeed, he has to basically build a entire workforce of alternate versions of himself with various skills, pros, cons, and it makes it a very unique story and gameplay experience because you're not only navigating the planet and trying to figure it out, but you're also navigating these different personality types and trying to make sure that there's nothing that fights or anything like that breaking out within your base. And I think that's a really unique, really cool concept.
Yeah, so the altars was probably the single best and most exciting one that I saw. And again, luckily, I looked this up right away. This is coming to PS5. I don't think release dates are known for any of the consoles. It may get a delayed release. I have no idea. But I agree with pretty much everything you just said. Really, really cool concept. I I'm a little concerned about my own ability to resolve social conflicts amongst I think it's interesting. I haven't played a game like this in a long time. So like there's a chance that I would buy it and play it and actually not like it that much, but I'm very drawn in by the ingenuity of it. I wonder how RPG
I think the fact
basically.
Like, when you talk about decision making, I always sometimes struggle in RPGs when you have different companions trying to decide between them. But with this, it's all yourself, and it's all versions of yourself and what, like, your ideal life path would have been. So I wonder if that would make it easier or harder than, like, your standard, oh, here are your different companions.
I imagine...
I also wonder if... It seemed like you can keep pulling and pulling and pulling, and I wonder if it'll always asymptote to the same group of people. Like, it'll always just approach that same
like, what's the
group.
perfect state?
Yeah. Because if you fill it out, it seems like you can only get one personality type per timeline. So, like, you can't have duplicates of the same. And I could be wrong. If I'm wrong, that would be amazing, because now you can have basically, like, infinite combinations. But that said, if you can only get one, then it's going to always approach the same group of people.
I love the...
Just in a different
I love
order.
the concept, because it seems like, too, there are certain people that are going to specialize for certain things that you need to have done. And, like, so, like, oh, maybe you'll make the guy who, like, he finished college and, like, went to med school and became a doctor. So, like, if you get hurt, he can fix you up. But also, he leaves the dirty dishes in the communal kitchen. Like, it's, it's stuff like that where, like, I think it's very, well... It's hard to say it's true to life, because like big giant wheel space stations on foreign planets where you can clone yourself, it's not really true to life stuff. But like if you were in that situation, it's probably much how it would go in terms of balancing what people's roles are and what value they bring against what conflicts they cause. I would be curious, like you said, Nerdbomber, like I would think you would be inclined to start favoring certain versions of the character, but it would be more interesting to observe what those inclinations are, right? Because there's nothing outward necessarily about like, oh, you just like, I think you can say more about like, oh, I like this character more and I'm favoring him in a lot of the decisions I make. What does that say about me as a player? I think it's a lot easier the path to that question than with, RPGs that have like really crazy and diverse characters. So yeah, this one looked awesome.
You know how at the end of like Telltale games or a lot of like walking simulator games, or even I'm trying to think of what was that scary game with
Until
the
Dawn.
Wendigo? Yes. You know how like at the end they kind of told you like what percentage of people picked what? I wonder if there will be something like that where you'll be able to see, like Techtic said, like does everybody kind of converge on the same set of alters, or do you have like a outlier personality type compared to other people? Like that would be really cool.
If at the end of it said that after you played this, it'd be like, oh, you converged to House Hufflepuff. I would laugh at you.
Well, I want to know too, like how big is the decision tree basically? Because they say that these people are based on if in your past you made a certain decision and it led to this person basically. So how big is the decision tree? How many different people can you make? And the other thing I want to know too, because I don't know that they showed this much in the trailer, but like I'm fairly certain there's going to be a point where it's like, all right, we don't have enough food, or like someone's got to go out in this storm and like fix the thing, and they're not coming back, and you're gonna have to just like pick somebody. At least I think they should do something like that, because I think that's interesting. But like I do think that having these all be copies of ostensibly the same person makes it a lot more interesting, and at the very least sets it apart from other games of this ilk, because there's a lot of like space station games where like you're basically just a team of people and each person has a specialty and you're trying to make them work together. But this looks very high production value, and it looks really, 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 really interesting. So I agree. I think this was my number one. So Techtic, you scooped me, but I applaud the hustle. Nerdbomber, you have a chance to scoop my number two. What was your juiciest juice for the squeeze in this partner preview?
I think Unknown 9 Awakening was probably one of the ones that was up there for me. I just thought this was a really interesting concept. Like the gameplay that they showed, it seemed like, you could kind of pivot between different people who had different powers. And it also seemed like there were elements of stealth and kind of approaching things with a more puzzle-minded mindset, which kind of remind me of Dishonored. And I don't know why it gave me shades of Dishonored watching this trailer, but it somehow did. Maybe it was because there were like some
supernatural
magical like whoosh forward powers. Yeah.
I could see that.
So this seemed I don't know. It seemed like it was a high production value double A type game.
Yeah.
I don't know. Something about this just rang true with me.
Were you taking control of enemies or swapping between characters? I couldn't quite tell.
It seemed like you were swapping between characters, if I'm understanding correctly.
That was my take on it as well. I think the combat in general just looked really slick because like you're clearly in control of some kind of. So, I mean, are they ghosts? Like, what? You're in control of something. They may have said it in the trailer. I don't know. But like, I was just looking at all the whooshy ghost combat, and it seems like there were spirits kind of just like popping out of this girl's body and like doing stuff to enemies. I thought it looked really, really cool.
And it seemed like there was an element of, I don't want to call it like rebirth, but it seemed like there were elements where like you were continually being reborn throughout different periods in time potentially. And I don't know. Again, that kind of gave me shades of. Oh man, what was that game that just came out? It was by Arcane as well. I can't remember.
Deathloop.
Yeah, it kind of gave me elements of Deathloop. So I don't know. It felt very arcane-y. I can't really explain exactly why. I know it's not the same developer at all, but it felt very arcane-y in nature.
Yeah, I'm currently triggered by the concept of rebirth, and I'll get to that and my what are you up to, and I'll talk about the game that I'm currently playing that is causing me to tear my hair out. But yeah, this looked really good. It's also, there's something to be said for in a 30-minute preview, what game are they leading with? I think is important. You have to consider these as like very carefully crafted, I imagine, showcases, and this was kind of their coming out party. Like, look at all the cool stuff we have to offer. I thought it was a good step forward, putting their best foot forward, I should say. We're almost going in order now, but like, so Unknown 9 was first. Altered, I believe, was the third one. The Alters was the third one they talked about. The second one that came up was a game called Sleight of Hand. Now, this also gave me a little bit of Dishonored vibes because this was stealth noir. Because I think Dishonored has some noir elements and like, again, more magic elements. It looks like you're playing cards. I mean, this was very cinematic, so I don't know how indicative it would be of actual gameplay. But dark noir stealth with magic. I mean, based on my Dishonored experience, which has been overwhelmingly positive, that's kind of all I need to hear, and I'm definitely in.
And there's like detective elements, which I know is pretty big. Like, I know you're really into detective, both novels and movies and games lately, so I feel like that is an element of this game too that probably resonates.
Yeah, this was a short, like minute long little trailer. It was not as long as a lot of the other stuff we saw, but it gave the correct amount of taste to me to know that this is what I'm going to have my eye on. I actually don't, but I think this is one of the ones that I might have got screwed. I think they've only mentioned it being on Xbox and PC. I'll have to give that a quick Google.
I think it's going to be on Game Pass as well, which I mean, you can get PC Game Pass and go ham.
No. I don't want to. Yeah, I know. A quick Google suggests that it is not going to be on PS5, which kind of drives me nuts. But what are you going to do? So that one looked very cool. I mean, there's so much more here. I will be honest. I did not watch the Roblox thing about Chucky. I know it's a total left turn, but I'm just kind of like scrolling through this stuff. That was the one thing I skipped because I was like, I don't care about Roblox.
There's not much to say there. I just don't understand why Chucky would be a choice for DLC, simply because it's one of those know your audience situations.
Right.
And I don't know anyone over the age of 8 years old that's playing Roblox.
Yeah, to me, Roblox is...
I don't know a lot of people over the age of 8-year-olds also, but it feels like it should not go hand in hand with Chucky. Like, it feels like we're like, hey, how do we want to traumatize your children? I have an idea.
Right. I've never seen a Chucky movie. That's just a fact about me. I don't need to. I'll just throw that out there too. Like, I'm not clamoring for Chucky content. And I agree. It doesn't make sense with what their demographic is, because I agree. To me, when I hear Roblox, I think like children, and like, I guess some children probably want to be scared, but like their parents probably don't want to buy them games that are just going to scare them. So that felt like an odd choice. Techtic, what else? Can we just talk about Kenzera Zhao for a second? Because I know you said you weren't going to be... I'll be the side scroller guy, okay? In this case, it'll be me. Tales of Kenzera Zhao. We've talked about this on the show now. I don't know how many times. At least 3.
What was nice about this is we got to actually see the weapons and the way the game plays. And I tell you, every single time I see trailers or get a little bit more details about this game, it just gets me more excited. They're doing everything right. The plot is fantastic. The weapon trees look fantastic. The art style looks fantastic. I mean, my goodness gracious, I don't know how you can nail a game on so many levels and still not have it in my hands. It's just insane.
Yeah, this one, the worst thing I could say about it is that it looks like a reskin of Metroid Dread with a much more involved plot, which like I'm in. It's like saying that like it's a bad thing is kind of silly because like Metroid Dread we both played, it was amazing. Like to me when I see the gameplay I'm like, oh, that it's it's just like unlocking new methods of traversal and combat, and it looks like there's like I love the Metroid games. The plot is pretty loose on those games, and like there's most often like not really much dialogue or anything happening. This looks like it has a pretty rich story world. So this just looked really good.
And I feel like that's something that will like be able to draw me into Metroidvania type games because I don't know, I was sort of watching Techtic play Metroid Dread and it just seemed like dark and like there wasn't a whole lot of story. It didn't seem like every now and then there was like this bird guy would pop up on the screen. But like I don't know, it didn't seem like there was anything that was engaging and that it kind of, I don't want to say it rested its laurels because I didn't play it myself, but it felt like it was resting its laurels more on the fact that it was super challenging. And you guys know me, I'm down for a good story. Like that's one of the biggest things in a game that'll really, draw my attention and keep me playing. Yeah. And so even through difficulty, I feel like this would help me get into the Metroidvania genre a little bit better because I'll have a story to keep me going. Once I start a story, I want to see how
Metroid,
it ends.
And like Techtic, I would say you're at this point, you're the Metroid expert relative to me. But like my experience with Metroid Prime and I believe Super Metroid is the one I played for the NES and like Dread. The story is unique in the sense that yes, there is a story, and in particular, if you like in the Prime games in particular, if you seek out the deeper story, you can get it, but you have to work for it. And on the surface, the story that just kind of passively happens to you as a player of the game is very minimal. It's just like, okay, you're Samus, you land on a planet, a giant enemy attacks you and steals all your stuff. For the rest of the game, you got to get back your stuff and like in the end defeat that enemy, and all the while you're defeating all those underlings. Like it's very straightforward.
And most of the time, the enemy is very much a Samus-esque character.
Yes. So like I think a lot of them, I don't want to call them copy paste, but like they're kind of just redoing the same story over and over again. And like it always works because the gameplay is so tightly set up.
It just slaps.
But like going back to Tales of Kenzera Zao, like this, like you said, this looks like pretty significantly more involved. And I think that's to its credit. So this one's going to be amazing. This one comes out April 23rd. So like we are, slowly closing in on it. And this one, it comes out on the Switch, the PS5, Xbox, PC. And that's a question I have is, what console are you buying this for?
Switch.
I think it's Switch too.
I really enjoy side-scrollers on the Switch. That's just where it hits me.
Yeah, I do think that is my intent as well. PS5, I could be convinced, but like, I just do not associate this kind of experience with that. And it sounds like you're saying the same thing. So... sorry, Xbox. I know this was your partner preview, but we're going to get on the Switch. That was mine, because Tactic, you don't want to be the side-scroller guy. That was my pick. So do you have any other picks that you want to shout out here?
I have another one that I want to not shout out, but definitely talk about. Kunitsu-Gami, I think it's pronounced Path of the Goddess.
Last one.
This game, and I feel like I'm going to make people upset. This was Pikmin.
You're going to make people upset. Definitely.
First off, okay, first and foremost, when I saw this trailer, there was I quoted that BBC crane on it because it said daytime, nighttime, daytime. That's literally what the game did, and that's what Pikmin does. You start off in the daytime, you're getting all the little bad guys, whatever, and then nighttime hits, and they all get super strong, and you got to take them down at nighttime. This was Pikmin. This is 100% that. And then that said, like, I don't mind Pikmin. I like the way that Pikmin plays because it gives you like you're constantly clock managing to try to get done what you need to get done, whatever. But then the other side of it that just I couldn't get over was the running mechanic. It's so much like Samurai Run in excess that I couldn't deal with it. And I was just like, this might be fun for like a little bit, and then I'm just gonna get annoyed with the running animation. So, and that's my review of
I've never played a Pikmin game, and that's on purpose. Like, I had a friend back when I was younger who was really into Pikmin, and I was like, how can this be interesting to you? I hear you when you discuss the core mechanic of daytime, nighttime in this game, and like that being similar to Pikmin, but I don't know that it reminded me of Pikmin in like any other respect. It looked a lot more action packed. Like Pikmin, I was like, this looks like the most boring thing ever. And again, now I'm really making people mad. I'm sure people are going to be all over me.
This was like
This was a little bit better
JRPG
than
action
Pikmin.
Pikmin.
Yeah.
It was a little bit better than Pikmin because you can actually fight a little bit more. You're not just relying on your little Pikmin.
I think it visually looked very impressive. I think
There's some bizarre stuff.
yeah.
Like visually very impressive, but like some of the, I don't want to call it character. I guess the enemies are characters. Some of the like enemy design, very bizarre, messed up stuff.
This was one that I think I pretty quickly identified as not for me, just not my cup of tea. But like, I think it was very well polished. So like, yeah, I think it's definitely worth bringing up. Sounds like it's not one that any of us are going to be buying necessarily. Nerdbomber, anything else you want to shout out here?
Creatures of Ava,
Yeah.
Ava, I don't know,
I had
whatever it was. It very cartoony, very cute, very colorful, lots of animals. It sort of gave me like Haven vibes, but with cute animals that I don't know if you collect or what. There's one that sort of looks like Venusaur from Pokemon. So like, that's pretty cool. And I don't know. This is just like one of those games where it seemed like it was very, like there was some action, like you were obviously doing some kind of like combat or something.
You're rescuing the animals.
But it was like a very relaxed vibe and very colorful and cute. And sometimes I just need one of those.
I had you pegged for this one. It's cute and I'm going to use the term mid-energy zen. I feel like it's definitely got some of that going on. So
what is nice about this one, and the reason why Pal World took as much flack as it did was because their creature designs were like copy paste Pokemon. What's really good about this one is it's none of that. All of their creatures are, and I know you said the one looks like Venusaur, but it's like very it's just a big green. It's not like what Pal World did. These are like very unique characters, unique creatures that the connections to these other games are merely because it's unique characters in this open world experience. That is it. And I'm here for that.
Yeah, this looked very agreeable. This is one that, I don't know, there were a couple games here and this was one of them. I wonder how much it's going to cost. Are these all the games we saw, are these all $70 games?
I don't think so. I think there's a decent chunk of these, especially because they are either AA or very like indie based. I could see them falling in that like $29 to $39 range, depending on, what the game is. Some of these I feel like will probably end up being a little bit more expensive, but I can't see many of these being like the full-fledged $70 AAA price point.
Yeah. Do we know how much Kenzera's house is going to cost? Because that's the one that
I feel like that was about $30 last time I looked.
I'm concerned. I'm concerned for my wallet on that one. I'm going to talk about another one. I mean, this one you guys probably should have determined, or I guess predicted that I would talk about. Sinking City.
Kenzera Zhao is going to be $17.99.
Wow, that's fantastic.
$18 on the Switch?
$18. Wow. Switch or PS5.
They're about to make a
Sign
cool
me
bill.
That up. Every so often in these showcases, this happened again. I can't remember the title, but it happened fairly recently with a different game. They'll be like, something game 2. And I'm like, this looks like a great game, but I don't remember the first one happening. And the Sinking City 2 is one of those games. This looked like my cup of tea. You guys should have predicted that. Survival horror game set in the 1920s in the United States. Very graphically impressive and spooky. I always, in moments like these and with trailers like these, I imagine a Nerdbomber watching between like gaps between her fingers with her hands over her eyes. I don't know if that's actually what happened.
I think at one point, there's like a scene where a guy's body is like backwards and then it contorts so he's like facing you. And I was like, immediately no.
That was cool.
See, I'm not anti-scary game. I'm anti the psycho thrillers where there's no like you go here, then you travel here, where it's all just like bullshit in your head and you're moving from location to location and there's no like clear line of sight of what you need to do. Those are just annoying to me. Those are just, we're going to scare the shit out of you and you're going to find random puzzle pieces in random locations and you won't have any idea where you are or what's going on. Not fun. Give me just a regular horror that's not that.
But I think the Sinking City, like I think it's based on an H.P. Lovecraft.
Yeah, it's got the Cthulhu vibes. I don't know the backstory of it, but yeah, Techtic, you would not like the Alan Wake. And based on my one play of Alan Wake, you wouldn't like Alan Wake. Because Alan Wake is basically like, you're kind of like fighting through your own head for a lot of it. I don't know that this is the same thing, but it certainly gave me those kinds of vibes. This is another one. It's like, yeah, for like $30, I would give this a go. In particular, if I haven't played the first one, like I would wonder if I'm gonna be confused. But it had the right vibes for yours truly, in the same way that Tales of Ava I knew was going to be a Nerdbomber special. Creatures of Ava, I should say. And Kenzera Zhao was Techtic's big thing. There were a couple other things here. I think, unless you guys have objection, we could probably skip them, because like we had a Final Fantasy thing. None of us are Final Fantasy players. Stalker is being remastered.
I feel like that would be another one that you
never played any of them. The remaster looked not very remastery. That was like I'm like, there's only so much you can do for games that were made. These were probably made in like the early 2000s, would be my guess. They looked fun in the way, like, so when I had an Xbox 360 way back when, I mean, I still have one, but like when I was playing it, I picked up a copy of Fear for like $3. Remember Fear? It was like, there was like a little girl.
Yeah, this was actually what I thought when the trailer for all of these started. I was like, oh, this is horrifying. And like, they're both scary games, but I was thinking of Fear because the little girl was terrifying.
Yeah, Fear kind of ruled. And that was a game that I just kind of like got on a whim, and I was like, oh, this is actually awesome. I don't know this one looked as scary. This one more looks like you're kind of like in a wasteland and you're just like fighting other folks. But this is, again, it's something that in the right circumstances I would try it, but I definitely wasn't like, oh, hell yeah. Like, I'm sure there are people who are like, hell yeah, these are back. Thank God. I would play that monster truck game for about 5 minutes. Monster Jam Showdown. I think it would be fun to play in the aisle in a Target while your mom was buying boring stuff. And then she was like, hey, come on, we have to go. That's what this game gave me.
That is spot on.
Yeah. I mean, we all had that experience when we were a kid. It's like, oh, this is a really cool little monster truck game that I will never buy, but it'll be fun for the 5 minutes that I'm here at Target. My mom's shopping for like, God knows what. I will say, and we can stop on any of these. First Berserker, we've seen stuff for before. I still think this looks really good. This is, again, I don't know that I would buy it, but
I disagree. So I am, and maybe I'm just a slut for good plots, but this is just like, I think the trailer for a game is just as important as the game itself, because they just said, we're just going to show fighting gore. We're not going to give you any plot, any hint of what's going on. It was just fighting gore. And like, that can keep me entertained for a little bit, but there's no substance beyond that. Show me more. And then I'm going to talk about why I'm excited for your game.
I do think there was one game, and I didn't write down which one, unfortunately, but I do think it was this one where I was like, they were not ready for the frame rate. There was one trailer where I was like, the frame rate's really low. And I think it might have been this one, because like they were showing a lot of really spectacularly gory like dismemberments that were like causing my YouTube frame rate to drop. I don't know if that was a YouTube thing or if it was the game, but like
that was happening with ours too.
They could dial down the gore, if only to make the frame rate better. But I thought the combat looked pretty nifty. Frostpunk 2, this is actually by the people that are doing the altars. It's not my thing.
No, these real-time strategy things, like, not my cup of tea. Because real-time strategy, correct?
That was my understanding of it.
Yeah, I've tried to get into them. I just don't have the patience, I don't think.
Yeah. I had a brother who was super into Age of Empires when I was growing up, and I was like, you know that you don't have to do this, right?
What happened?
Play actually fun games. He's still with us. He's not playing Age of Empires anymore, but he's still playing games that I'm like, you don't have to do this. I'm trying to remember what the most recent one was, but anyways, Persona 3 is getting a DLC. Never played that. So there were some little things like that sprinkled in, but really what I'm most excited for is the Monster Truck game. So I just wanted to make sure I mentioned that. I'm kidding, guys. I don't really care about the Monster Truck game. I'm about to get so many people mad at me in the comments, but I accept that. So we want to know, what were you most excited for in this partner preview? Hit us up on Twitter. @OW86 is my handle. We have @OW Nerdbomber, @OW Techtic, and our main show account @OnlineWarriors1. Let us know what you thought of the partner preview. If you like Monster Jam, the franchise, because I think it is a franchise. I'm sorry that I insulted it, but I would probably do it the same way if I had another chance. We'll take a short break now and come back to talk about a movie trailer or a short trailer. So we'll get to that. But before we do that, I would be remiss if I did not shout out our fantastic Patreon producer, Mr. Stephen Keller. Stephen was with us on the show the last time that I was here. He was very charitable. I was listening to this earlier today. He gave up his free quiz win. I don't know. I mean, what a selfless hero. He did that and then he immediately lost. So it was unfortunate that it worked out that way, but either way, Stephen, we're very grateful for your support. We're thankful for the support of all of our Patreon supporters, and in particular,
maybe he'll save us from having to do a thing.
He may save us from having to do a thing. It might be him. We'll see. Wouldn't that be great if we, thanks for supporting the show. You have to do this punishment. That feels like a very good way to get back to the fans. So we're very happy and very pleased with all of the Patreon support we have, and we're very thankful for all of the Patreon support that we have. And in particular, we're thankful for our Patreon producers, Steven being one of them. You are a Patreon producer if you support us at the night level. That's the highest of our 3 levels of support. You get this producer shout out on the show. You get input into the weekly game segment. Access, of course, to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and the occasional guest spot on the show. Steven was on the show a couple weeks ago. We also have a Squire level of support, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment and vlog, and a page level, which gets you access to the monthly secret segment. Patreon.com/Online Warriors Podcast is where you can go to get all the details on all of those levels of support. Thanks again to Steven. We'll be right back to talk about Inside Out 2.
I'm Ryan Fonzie.
This is Cameron Hagee.
My name is Tony Giggles.
And we're 3 dudes who love The Legend of Zelda and love talking about The Legend of Zelda.
And if you are a Zelda fan as much as we are, then come on down and listen to your heart's content.
We have a podcast that we'd like to share with you. It's called A for No, B for Yes. We cover the Legend of Zelda series, different games chapter by chapter, and we have all kinds of theories about what we see and what we've experienced in the game.
Do you go through Wikipedia and look up stuff based on the things you see in the game to create theories to how it could link to other things in the world that we actually live in, and not the Zelda one that was the one that was created by the people that are in the world that we actually live in right now? Because if you don't, then you should watch this, because we do.
Did you guys get all that? If not, oh, you didn't. Okay. So we are A for No, B for... Alright, I'll stop.
We're back to talk about Inside Out 2. Now, we've talked about this on the show before. I think we got a teaser at one point. Maybe we talked about it. But I think we just got the teaser trailer for it over the weekend, maybe? I don't remember when we got a teaser, and we got the official trailer 4 days ago, so that would have been last weekend. This, I was initially excited, and I'm now mixed. This trailer did not help me. It didn't grow my excitement for this movie. I don't know if that was your guys. I believe the last time we talked about this, Nerdbomber, you might have poo-pooed this, and I'm starting to...
It grew her excitement.
I was not the biggest fan of the original Inside Out. Like, I didn't think it was bad, but I thought it was just okay. I didn't think it was one of Pixar's best offerings.
So we flipped?
And so this, immediately, we did flip because it hit me in the face with hockey, and I'm a show.
It got you with hockey.
She put that thing right down and reversed it.
I should have considered the hockey angle. I just I'm worried about. So first of all, the voice cast. I just want to shout out Phyllis Smith because my God, she brings it. She's everyone else in this voice cast, I'm like, whatever. And when she opens up her mouth and speaks, I'm like, that is sadness personified. Boom. She nails it every single time. Just wanted to shout her out because it stuck out to me. Do you think
in life, because in The Office, she had a very similar voice. So I'm wondering, that's just her voice. Do you think people around her just feel a little melancholy when she talks?
At the very least, mellowed out, I would think. It would mellow me out for sure. I feel like she just, for whatever reason, stood out in this trailer. I like the idea of anxiety and embarrassment, and there's a third one that I can't think of right now. I love the idea of those being introduced and the other emotions literally being bottled up. It's going to be all that, right? It's going to be more almost like taking turns of phrase, bottling up your emotion and making them into kind of like sight gags almost, and then the sarcasm, that's another thing. It's okay, they're kind of just picking fruits like that, and just
What I still find incredibly interesting about both the bottling up of the emotion and when it shows over to the mother's emotional people is that she doesn't have those emotions anymore. Yeah. And so it really screams to the phase of teenage uncertainty of what's going on with one's emotions, and I really like.
But you do have anxiety as an adult. So I have questions about that. I don't know. I think that I guess my concern after watching this trailer is that they're gonna focus on shallow gags the bottling up the emotions and it is funny and I get it, but I don't know. I kind of cherish the first one so much because I feel like it had a lot of important things to say, and after watching this trailer, I'm now concerned that they're gonna overreach and try to stack too much on top of it, and I don't want them to do that. That it's kind of as simple as that for me. Also, Bing Bong. There's no Bing Bong. And obviously there's not. I know
Bing Bong died.
But I think I'm starting to appreciate that he was a crucial part of the first movie. And so if he's not there anymore, what's what is there? I have a lot of questions.
Also,
basically.
shout out to Paul Walter Hauser. I think he's a hilarious embarrassment. I think like that fits his role.
He's
well.
also just a really great actor. Like, did you guys watch?
He is.
Did you guys watch
Fantastic.
Blackbird? Because he was amazing in that show.
No, we did watch Blackbird. Yes, we did. I
Yeah.
forgot that
They're
the prison one
they're in
about
jail.
the serial killer. Right.
I want more. I think we talked about this too. Like Techtic, you mentioned the seeing the parents' emotions. Like we got a very brief bit of that in the first movie. I think it was towards the tail end. So you're like, oh, everyone has them, and like obviously it makes sense within the story world, but you don't think about it. I think it would be very interesting to get more of that. I don't know that we will necessarily, but I think it would be really interesting to get more of that. Yeah, I don't know. Like I'm still excited for it. If you can't tell me talking about it, but like I'm more nervous now than I was. And I'm not sure I can really, I don't know if I have a good explanation for that, but it's coming. It's coming out June 14th. So fairly soon. This is one that I'd see in theaters. Why not? You know, theaters, I've been to theaters twice in the past 2 weeks. We'll get into that. I'm starting to think theaters are back. Maybe I'm going to start going to theaters more again because I haven't been in a while. So maybe I'll go to theaters to see this one.
Did you get the Dune bucket?
I'm going to talk about Dune, but no, I did not get the Dune bucket. Did not get the Dune popcorn fuck it bucket. Didn't have the nerve, and also actually no, I was at an AMC, so I probably could have gotten the Dune fuck it bucket, but I was with friends. It would have been weird.
That would have been even better. Then you can just like throughout the movie make eye contact with them as you reach your hand in the slimy, buttery wormhole.
Yeah, it's well, we'll talk about the movie. I'm not going to talk about the popcorn bucket any more than I have, but yeah, that'll be part of my update. Before we get to the updates though, just a brief cramming a third topic in. We also got an official trailer for the Fallout TV show. This was a long trailer. This was like over 3 minutes. I have to again, I believe when we got the first teaser for this, I applauded the trailer for not showing too much. And even though this was 3 minutes long, I have to again applaud this trailer for not showing too much. Like I still don't know what's going on with a lot of the characters.
But it still looks very good.
Yeah.
And I think for people who have played the games, I think it gave enough nods to things from the game without necessarily spoiling this specific character's plot, which is great.
I think Walton Goggins is going to freaking bring it in this show. I think I predict he is going to be the big deal of this show, potentially in the same way that Nick Offerman was a big deal in the Last of Us show. I'm interested in this. This is coming April 12th. This is like a month from now. So,
and you know what's exciting too? All episodes are dropping on the same day.
Mm-hmm. Michael Emerson, Kyle MacLachlan, a lot of interesting people in this. The question I have, because the trailer doesn't really get into it too much, like in the Last of Us is also post-apocalyptic America, and like they're going across the country during the first season of this show. Spoiler alert, but it's been a while, so you haven't seen it. I mean, I can't help you. And they're focused on being in certain cities. I'm trying to remember, did we see any specific landmarks in the Fallout trailer? And like, I guess, is it going to be focused? Because like when I think of Fallout, I don't really think about it being in America. I kind of think about it just like being a place in the world that might even be made up. So like,
see, that's interesting. All of the Fallout games are based in a different, location.
Well, there's
in
New
the United
Vegas.
States. So like, for example, there's and oh man, there's one. Is the Fallout 76? Is that the number? Isn't that based on like the Appalachians or something like that too? Like they're all in different locations in America.
Yeah, it's just interesting. I've never really thought about it that way, but I am wondering how much they're going to focus on specific locations in this show. And I don't have the answer for that. And I don't know that anybody does, but it was just something I was thinking about while I was watching this trailer, which I think this is going to be good. I don't know that we need to dwell on it a whole lot more than we have, but Tactic, any last closing thoughts to add besides this looks good before we move on?
This looks really good.
This looks really good. Okay, so you added a really to it. We'll all potentially have our feet up watching this on April 12th, 2024. I'm just going to take a few days off work and watch the whole thing. Sorry, boss. Yeah, let's get to what are you up to Wednesday. This is the part of the show where we talk about what we've been up to. I'm going to go first because I've been absent. I did see Dune Part 2, and guys, it's really good.
Better than the first one?
I do think it's better than the first one, yeah. I've been giving this a lot of thought. It's the kind of movie that it gives you cause for reflection. I think any movie over 2 hours gives you cause for reflection. And like walking out of Dune 2, I was thinking back to my experience with Dune 1, which granted, I did not rewatch Dune 1 when going into Dune 2. I watched a YouTube summary. So like you could argue that I need to rewatch Dune 1 before I can make this judgment. But based on my memory of Dune 1 and also based on what happens in Dune 2, I think Dune 2 was better. I think Dune 2 had more action in it, which is what I personally wanted. I also think Zendaya says more than like 3 words, which I think can really just be good for any movie. I was a big fan of this movie. It's a push and pull thing with me about whether I should read the books or not, because I've heard so much about how dry the books are, but the story world of these movies is so rich that
if you're enjoying the movies, stay very, very clear from the books. Like, go play the Dune video game or something that just got announced. Like, go do one of those things if you want to get more of the world, because the book, at least for me and a lot of people that I've been talking to about it recently, like, the book just somehow makes this world very boring. It makes Star Wars the most boring thing imaginable.
Yeah, yes. I've heard it's like space politics and like families and like, all that kind of stuff. So did you see part 2? Do you guys see part 2 yet? Or no?
No, we have not. Recommend.
I also, I will say, like, as far as like movies that quote unquote demand a theater experience go, this is definitely one of them. Like, it's The Worms, man. The Worms are pretty impressive in a theater. If that if that's the kind of thing that matters to you, I think it's worth going to the theater for it. But I really enjoyed Dune 2. Big fan. I also saw a movie called American Fiction a week before that. So those are my 2 theater experiences. American Fiction, I did not need to watch in a theater. It was just a lot of people talking, basically. But also a very, very good movie. Last night at the Oscars, it won Best Adapted Screenplay, which is well-deserved. Jeffrey Wright was amazing in that movie. It's a very thought-provoking movie and also very entertaining. We were talking about this before coming on the air. I mean, there's a number of like every year with the Oscars, there's like 10 Best Picture nominees, right? And like 5 of them can easily be characterized as like kind of like quote unquote high art, like art house stuff that like the average Joe, like yours truly, is not allowed to understand. American Fiction manages to be thought-provoking and well-produced and well-made and well-acted without being one of those art house kind of movies. And I appreciated that. So I would recommend that movie as well. As far as games go, as my last part of my update, I've circled back to Returnal over the past few weeks, but I think I'm going to have to circle away. I'm really torn with Returnal, guys. I'm having a hard time with Returnal because Returnal is, the first time I played this, I talked about it on the show, and I cited it as one of my best games of, I think, 2022. And like, it's so good. Like, the combat flow is amazing. The story world is amazing. Graphically, it's great. Really good use of the haptic controller. Just a really positive experience. The audio is awesome. It's so hard. It's incredibly hard, and it's wearing me down. Like, because I like it so much, and I want so badly to like at least make decent progress in it. And I mean, let me just lay it out for you. There are 6 biomes that you traverse when you do a run in Returnal. I have not yet proceeded past biome 2, and I don't know how many hours I put into this game, but like, between the last time I was playing and now, in the past few weeks playing, it's like a decent amount of time, and I should be further along than that. I've been reading a lot about, because I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but like every so often I'll be having a hard time with a game, and I'll just like Google like, is this game hard, to like make myself feel better. Mostly is what I do it. People do kind of agree that this game is hard, and not without reward, but like I'm seeing a lot of comparisons to a game that I know Nerdbomber, I think you really enjoyed, which was Hades. And like, it seems like there are other roguelikes and roguelites that they'll give you a little boost if they can tell that you're having a hard time. And boy, does Returnal not do that. If anything, Returnal like spits in your face and is like, you idiot, go back to the start. It's just like, it's very demoralizing. Like, there's very limited permanent progression. And again, it's by design. Like, when you start the game, it's literally, there's a little like blurb that's like, this game is designed to be challenging. They literally say that to you. And I read it and I'm like, yeah, but not for me. And then I play it and I'm like, this is no walk in the park. So I don't know how much longer I'm going to be playing it. I really, really like it. I would recommend it to anyone, but you might not beat it because I don't think I will ever beat it. I think I'll probably just repeatedly go back to it, play it, and really enjoy it, and then move on to something else, which is, it's okay, but I don't have many other game experiences that I can liken to that. So I'm working through some stuff with Returnal right now. I guess I'll just leave it at that. Techtic, let's swing it over to you.
So we finished out the Hunger Games quad. What would you call that?
Yeah, the quad. I haven't seen the new
the Hunger Games 4-banger. We finished that out.
Well, now it's technically a 5-banger.
Oh, it's a 5. Right.
We haven't watched that one yet.
And now we are ready to bang the 5th.
Okay.
Make it the full.
Yeah, I misunderstood because I thought you said the four banger, like including the prequel, but then I remember the last one had 2 parts, right?
Part 1,
yeah,
part 2.
they split the last book up into
And
2.
guys, it still holds up super well. I think the first 2 are significantly better than the second 2, but they're all just done very, very well with like little attention to detail here and there. And just 10 out of 10 recommend rewatching this. And so now look forward to us on the following What Are You Up To Wednesday to talk about how we watched the prequel. I'm really, really excited about that, and I can't wait for it.
What's funny is that I don't remember. You had seen the 4 movies, right?
Yeah.
But you couldn't really remember what had happened in them, and I wanted to watch the prequel. And so, because I had read the book, and so I was like, we should just rewatch all of them. And you're like, meh. And then on Friday night, I believe it was.
I was like, what's Katniss up to?
Yeah, and then we watched 2 of them in one night because it was like the second one ended at 11, and he was just like, let's go. Let's go. So,
good.
I mean, hey.
10 out of 10 recommend. So we did that, and then just been kind of grinding on the old Online Warriors game. That's all I've been up to.
When I was traveling last week, at one point I got on a plane for a flight that it was just over an hour in the air, very short flight. The guy next to me got on the plane, and as soon as they took off, he took out his iPad and went to put on The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and he fast forwarded to like the last 10 minutes. And I've been wondering ever since, was it because he had been watching it on a previous flight, like a connecting flight, and he just didn't get to see the end on that flight? Or was he like, I'm just going to cut to the chase and see how this thing ends? But it was a very interesting maneuver, so I just want to shout out that guy. Hope the game's going well.
He's probably messing with you with time zones. You're like, what? That a whole movie passed? He's trolling you.
Well, I won't rule that out, I guess. Nerdbomber, why don't you close us out here?
All right, so in addition to slamming through all of the Hunger Games movies, we also started, I've been talking a lot about like true crime, documentary style stuff. I don't know why I've been into this lately. I think it's because it's something that I don't have to pay super close attention to, and then I just get sucked into it. It's almost like reality TV, but like with a little bit more weight behind it. But I didn't want to do like serial killers or murderers or anything like that because we had to go buy a bunch of new like security devices for our house after one of them that we watched recently. So didn't want to get down that rabbit hole. And instead we watched the program Cons, Cults, and Kidnapping. This is another one that's on Netflix. And this is actually pretty wild. And this is all about a school. Well, it was marketed as a school, but it was actually a behavior modification facility where, I don't know if you guys remember back in like, I don't know, it was like the 2000s, the early 2000s. There were these stories of kids who would get like taken from their homes in handcuffs, and their parents would send them to basically like, I don't want to call it boot camp because it wasn't training for the military, but basically like a school for bad kids. And they would dorm there and work a program to try to, correct their behavioral problems. And the stuff that they were doing to these kids, absolutely insane. Like there's video evidence and paper trails, and they all just left it in this facility where they were just beating up on kids.
Like choke slamming.
Yeah, like choke slamming them to the ground. They weren't letting them talk to their parents. They were doing like very probably illegal strip searches because obviously all of these students were kids. They couldn't go outside. They couldn't look out windows. They weren't allowed to talk unless they were given permission.
And what's crazy is they were allowed to write letters to their parents, but the letters got censored. And if you said anything bad mouthing the facility, like they were doing bad shit, they would have you send it back to you for a correction.
And you would basically get in trouble. It's just like my mind was absolutely blown that these facilities exist. And there were like many of them. There's like a web 2. We're not completely through. We're like partially through the series, but there's like a web of how deep this goes. Like all of these schools kind of got approved and pushed through, even though they weren't even teaching kids. Like the education part of this entire experience, this quote unquote academy, did not exist. They basically put them on computers to do homeschooling, but didn't give them any direction. And it was like very basic, minimalistic quote unquote learning.
Yeah, I mean, when you say behavioral modification, that's when the alarm bells go off for me. But
it was marketed as a school. So like the brochures and stuff. So parents would, say, oh, my kid's having behavioral troubles. They're going down a wrong path in life. And the brochures and everything led the parents to believe that this was like an authentic facility where the kids would be like, tough loved, but they'd also have structure and actual like learning to improve their behavior, and that is nothing what happened at all. Craziness.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much of that stuff on Netflix these days. I'm like, is there any like good stuff happening in the world? It's probably a fair question. Anyway, it's scary. Thanks for that sobering thought.
Yeah. Sorry about that. I mean, the good news is this facility is closed. The company that owned all of these facilities went under, I think because of, lawsuits and
What have you?
political scrutiny. Yeah, what have you. So I do not believe these exist anymore, but still crazy stuff.
Well, that's good. Do you want to talk about giraffes?
I would love to talk about giraffes.
Let's talk about giraffes. I'm sorry, I don't know if you were done with your update. I'm just really excited to talk about giraffes.
No, yeah, that's all I have really had.
So before we talk about giraffes, well, giraffes are the quiz topic. If you didn't figure that out already, I'm just telling you now. We need to go to the quiz, go through the quiz records. Nerdbomber's at 4-2. I'm at 4-3. Techtic at 3-3. Steven 0-1 because he gave up his charity win. Still don't know why he did that. I get Valor, I guess is the answer. This week I will be hosting, so the stakes are that if Techtic wins, once again we will all be tied except for Steven. So I guess just, I don't know, bear that in mind as I ask you questions about giraffes. Nerdbomber, you will go first because it gives Techtic an advantage and you have the better record. So, according to the Guinness World Book of Records, how tall is the tallest recorded giraffe in feet?
I'm going to say this bad boy is 30 feet tall.
Okay, Techtic.
That's a good guess, and I feel like I want to go like more above that, but it feels dirty, so I'm just going to use my right now and say 31.
This is actually interesting. So you both busted.
What?
I put this in here because
Wait, did you mean neck length?
No, it's just
Or did you mean total height?
total height. 19 feet, guys. 19 feet. This is according to the Guinness World Book of Records.
No way.
Yeah.
No way. They haven't been then to
The tallest
the
giraffe ever.
savannah.
Tallest giraffe ever.
They need to get out to the savannah.
The tallest giraffe in the world currently, the tallest living one, is 18 feet 8 inches. The tallest ever recorded was named George, which I think is great. And that was in 1959. So
I feel like that's just not nearly as tall as I imagine giraffes to be.
yeah, giraffes aren't I wanted to leave you with that knowledge today. Giraffes aren't as tall as you think they are.
I'm like, that leaves me a little unsettled. I can't really understand why, but it does.
Okay. According to Google, what is the maximum top speed of a giraffe in miles per hour?
This is 15 miles per hour.
I feel like they're more than that. I'm gonna say 25 miles per hour. They're fast boys. Fast as fuck, boy.
They are fast as fuck, boys. 37 miles per hour. They can rumble.
Let's go.
So Nerdbomber's on the board because giraffes are fast. How much does an adult giraffe sleep per day? And let's just to provide a range. Let's do this in minutes. How much does an adult giraffe sleep per day in minutes on average?
I feel like I never see them sleeping because where would they put their little heads? Every time I'm at the zoo, they're not asleep. Like you see the big cats, they're always snoozing. The bears, they're always snoozing. But the giraffes, nah, they're up and at 'em. I'm going to say they probably only get like 360 minutes of sleep a day.
And over to Techtic.
So that's 6 hours. So I'm going to say probably 10 hours is more right. So 600 minutes.
You guys, this was a bit of a trick. So I wanted the unit in minutes because on average they sleep for 30 minutes a day. Isn't that,
No way.
Isn't that crazy?
I mean, I guess my hunch that I never see them sleeping is correct, but like, how do they function?
They're just being short, running fast, and sleeping never.
That is crazy.
Some stuff you got to know about giraffes. So it's still 1-0. You guys have both busted on 2 questions. I'm running a hard bargain today, but I'm not sorry about that. How many giraffes are estimated to currently be in the wild? We're not talking about giraffes in zoos or nature preserves. We're talking about in the wild.
600.
I can't tell if that's too much or not nearly enough. This is tough. I'm going to use my 1 here.
As in the number 1. You're not +1ing, you're using the number 1.
Yes. Yeah, the number 1.
Boy, you blew it.
Did I really? Man.
117,000. Guys, Africa's very large. And
Okay, there are species of animals which are out here with like 5
Yeah,
in the
humans
wild.
out here extincting everybody.
all right, famous giraffe.
So they're short, never sleeping, always fucking.
Always fucking. Yeah, that's true. You guys have seen Madagascar, a 2005 hit movie featuring Melman the giraffe.
I like to move it.
Played
I
by
like to move it.
played by David Schwimmer. What was the box office gross of Madagascar? We're just talking about the first movie here, not the franchise. This is for the W. This is a big deal.
I feel like this did fairly well. I'm going to say 131 million.
So you said this was worldwide?
This is worldwide. Mr. Worldwide.
200 million.
How about 556.6 million?
Really?
On a $75 million budget. This really cleaned up because of the I Like to Move It song is why I'm guessing it did. So, Techtic, you've done it. You pulled it off. You made it once again feel like a waste of time that we're doing this quiz at all because now we're all 4 and 3. Except for Steven, who is 0 and 1. Shout out to Steven. So next week, Techtic will host this quiz and Nerdbomber and myself will be fighting for supremacy. If that's the kind of thing that gets you going, then feel free to stop by next week. And if it's not, also feel free to stop by next week because we're going to be doing a lot of other stuff on the episode. We talk about a lot of other things, so we just do this quiz at the end. So, let's just turn it off at that point. We thank you all for joining us here at the Online Warriors podcast. Feel free to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. Hit us up on Twitter at the handles mentioned earlier in the episode. And head over to Patreon. Consider supporting the show. Patreon.com/Online Warriors podcast. At Online Warriors 1 is our Twitter handle. Go check us out there. In the meantime, stay safe. Keep on podcasting.